What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Lili and this is where I'm documenting my real estate investing journey and bringing you guys along with me. If you haven't seen part 1 of this video, it's where I talk about all of the hate that wholesalers get from the different parts of the investing industry and also break down some of the laws and regulations that are aiming to make wholesaling illegal. If you want to know more about that stuff, I'll definitely link part 1 in the description for you to go back and watch. But in part 2 of this video, I want to talk about how you can avoid that negative reputation, not use those shady tactics, and still collect big checks and feel good about it. Also, make sure you stay tuned because I have 2 opinions about disclosing whether or not you're a wholesaler that I think might be controversial, and I'm excited to see everyone argue about them in the comments. So make sure you watch to the end of this video. If you're down for that, we're diving into 6 ways that you can make it happen, and all you gotta do to get started is turn that like button blue. Let's do it. So the number 1 way to be an ethical wholesaler is to educate yourself first. This might sound boring, don't leave yet because it's important. I get a lot of comments here on YouTube as well as DMs over on Instagram that say something like, hey, I made an offer, or hey, I got a property under contract and now the seller is asking me for this, or the real estate agent is asking me for this, and I don't know what that is and I don't know how to move forward. These are always questions that I almost can't answer because when someone dives into one part of the process without understanding the full process, you never know what they know or what they don't know. And for you as an individual, you want to make sure that you don't have to rely on anyone else to make sure that you can complete a deal doing things ethically, signing contracts and doing it legally, and making sure that you don't harm anyone or put them in a worse position. And I'm not trying to scare you away from wholesaling or say that your intentions are malicious. There are just things that can go wrong when you don't know what terminology to use, when you don't know what contracts to use, what title companies to work with, and so on. So commit to learning the basics of what you're doing before you dive in and start making offers and signing legal contracts. I don't know about you guys, but I wouldn't take off in a plane before I understood how to land. And if you need help getting these basics down, I'll link to some of my favorite books and podcasts in the description below, as well as give you guys a link to the free resource packet that I've put together to kind of help you get on your way. So once you understand the wholesaling process as well as the basics of just real estate transactions, the second thing you need to educate yourself on is the numbers. This is arguably the most important part of wholesaling and investing in general. It's all about just getting a good deal. Some of the numbers that you need to get familiar with are your ARV, which stands for your after repair value, and this is found by looking at comps or comparable properties that will help you understand what your property might sell for. You also need to get reasonably good at estimating rehabs. No one's gonna expect that you go out and get your contractor license and give a line-by-line breakdown of how much every little thing is going to cost, but you need to be able to recognize the difference between a $15,000 rehab, a $30,000 rehab, and a $50,000 rehab. All these numbers usually combine into a wholesaling formula that I'll put on the screen right here. Now, in the place of this X, I usually use 70% or 75%. Most of my deals so far have been done at about the 75% mark, but this is something that you're going to want to make sure you understand for your local market, because in super expensive or super hot markets, there's some people going up to 80 or even 85%. If you want to know more about this formula and how to run your numbers, check out this video right here, or come to one of my 5-day beginners boot camps that I host on Zoom, where we break it down and do a bunch of practice problems to help you come up with offer price, finding ARV, estimating rehab, and figuring out what percentage investors are using in your market. But at the end of the day, wholesaling is about getting a deal at a price that an investor is willing to buy it for. If I stood out on the street with a water bottle trying to sell it for $500, I would be standing out there forever. No one's ever gonna buy that from me. Versus if I had a Maserati and I was selling that for $500, I would probably have people lining up around the block to buy it from me. The same thing happens when you send a deal out to your cash buyers list. Investors are gonna spend just a couple of seconds looking at your ARV, looking at your rehab budget, looking at the pictures you send, and it's either gonna be a $500 water bottle or it's gonna be a $500 Maserati. For a great deal, you will have buyers. But if the numbers aren't right, crickets. The next thing you want to think about to make sure your wholesaling business is being run ethically is whether you want to disclose that you're a wholesaler or not. When you're wholesaling a deal, it usually means that you may not have access to all the cash or capital needed to buy that deal yourself. Because of this, you need to decide whether you're going to tell the homeowner or the real estate agent that you're not the person that actually has the cash and that you're going to end up assigning this property to one of your cash buyers. You can decide to tell them this up front, or they can figure it out at the closing table when your cash buyers shows up and they see a line item that lists your assignment fee. It seems there are a few different legal opinions on this, and I'm not a lawyer, but here's the basics of what I found. Some people say that as long as your contract has your name as the buyer and or assigns or your assignees, then you're fine to have that be the extent of your disclosure and you can assign that contract at closing. You might not have any problems. I've also heard people say that all real estate contracts are assignable unless it explicitly says that it's not. So those people say you don't even need to have the language and or assigns in the contract. But on the other hand, I've also talked with local title companies that are saying the and or assigns isn't enough, that you have to have another clause that explicitly states what the assignment means so that the seller is completely aware of what's going on. And finally, there are some title companies in my area who will not work with wholesalers and do assignments of contracts regardless of what the contract says. So there are a lot of situations you might run into. You might even work with a seller or a real estate agent who completely don't care what you do as long as they get the money that is on the contract. And you might work with some that give a big fuss and cause a delay of the closing. But for me, there's too many mights in this situation. I don't want to lose sleep over all the things that might go wrong. Instead, I choose to disclose that I'm not the one with the cash. Whenever I work with the real estate agent, I let them know that myself and my partners, this is how we do business. I find and negotiate the deals and I assign them to my partner or to my partner's LLC in order to buy them at closing. I've only had one homeowner object to this, and I told them, hey, I don't have to assign it to them at closing. I can do something called a double close where I buy it from you, then turn around and sell it to my partner's LLC a few minutes later, but that does involve more fees, and so it's going to be more expensive for all of us. As long as I position myself as honest, I communicate well, and I speak like I know what I'm talking about, I haven't run into any problems. Besides, most homeowners don't even care what you do with the property once you buy it from them. As long as they get paid what you said they would get paid in the contract and you treat them fairly, you'll probably be okay. The other reason that I disclose how I'm doing business is because I want repeat relationships with the real estate agents I work with. I recently closed my biggest deal yet on Thanksgiving Day. I've got a video about that coming out very, very soon, but I actually did no work to find this deal. It was brought to me by a real estate agent. A few weeks ago, I made an offer on a property that this agent had listed and the seller rejected the offer. And I told the agent, no problem, if you ever get any other properties in similar distressed condition, send them my way and I'll make you an offer. So like a day or two before Thanksgiving, he did just that. One reason is that I don't work with a buyer's agent to represent me on real estate deals, and so I allow listing agents to represent me as well as the seller that they're already working for. If you want to learn more about this, definitely check out this video right here, but basically it can incentivize the real estate agent to work with me over working with someone else. So this can get agents to start that relationship with you. But if we get to the closing table and the agent sees that I wasn't actually the buyer, that I assigned this deal to someone else, and I didn't tell them that, they could feel that I've been a little bit dishonest or that I've tricked them in some way, and they may not bring me deals in the future. But because I tell every single agent exactly how I do business, that I work with my partners and I'm gonna get a finder's fee at closing, they have no problem. Everything's upfront on the table, and agents consistently text me with new deals every single week. So doing business the right way can actually help your business to grow more than if you kind of used a shady tactic to get by and get one deal. It might just be the only deal you get with that person. So that's one way to be ethical when you're working with the agent, but I've got two things about ethics when you're working with homeowners that I think might be a little controversial. So here it is. The first one is that you should always put down earnest money. And the second is that you should not get an overly long inspection period. In this video right here, I do a deep dive on exactly what earnest money is and how to put it down, etc., etc. But basically, this is like your good faith deposit when you go under contract with someone to buy their property. It's just putting your money where your mouth is by putting a small amount down on that contract to say, hey, I'm going to abide by what this contract says and do what I said I was gonna do. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because if you do things correctly, you're gonna have something called an inspection period, which we'll talk about next. But during that inspection period, if you're unable to find a buyer or go through with the deal for any reason, you can get your earnest money back. And earnest money can be a very small amount. It's whatever you and the seller agree on, and usually the only way you wouldn't put down earnest money is if the seller just doesn't know to ask for it. I say even in that situation, still put it down. It doesn't have to be a lot. It's whatever you and the seller agree on, and you can always get it back. And if the deal is on market with a real estate agent, they're definitely going to require you to put down earnest money, so don't fight it. If you don't currently have $200 to $500 to put down for earnest money, I would say 1, dedicate a bunch of time to learning about wholesaling. Don't just stop, but learn as much as you can, build relationships so you can hit the ground running when you do get that money, save up while you're doing that, or borrow the earnest money from someone who trusts you. You don't need a ton of money for this, and in my opinion, it's human nature to take things much more seriously when you have money involved. I know this because when I first started this channel, I was offering free 30-minute one-on-one calls to anyone who wanted to sign up. And a ton of people would sign up, and like 80% of people wouldn't even show up because we just care more when we put our money where our mouth is. We just do the right thing when there's money involved. So the second part of this that might be controversial comes down to the inspection period. When you go under contract to buy real estate, there's usually like a 30-day period before you or your cash buyer need to show up to the title company and actually pay the money to buy the property. But the first 7 to 10 days of that 30-day period are usually reserved for something called the inspection period. And during that time, you have the opportunity to do your due diligence, to make sure that your cash buyers want the property, to make sure there's nothing unexpected going on with the property that you didn't know about. And during that time, for whatever reason, you can cancel the contract and get your earnest money back, and you're no longer obliged to buy that property. But if you cancel the contract after that inspection period has already ended, then the seller gets to keep your earnest money because you didn't do what you said you would do in the contract, which is either buy it in 30 days or cancel it during the inspection period. Now, there's some wholesalers who try to use the entire 30-day period and get their earnest money back even if they take 30 full days and never actually find a buyer. I think this is unethical because it strings the buyer along for an unnecessarily long amount of time, and it really comes back to that question of, do you have a $500 water bottle or do you have a $500 Maserati? If you had a great deal, a $500 Maserati, it wouldn't take you 30 full days to find a buyer. It probably wouldn't even take you the full 7 to 10 days. But if you don't have an actually good deal, just stringing the buyer along for 30 days means that they can't sell to someone else during that amount of time, and you should really just go ahead and cancel the deal, get your earnest money back, let them sell to someone else, and move on with learning a little bit more so that you can get better deals under contract in the future. So my final bonus tip for you guys is to plan for the future. If you truly want to be an ethical real estate wholesaler and you're worried about this, just get your real estate license. I'm considering getting my license for a couple of different reasons, and of course it's something that I'll document for you guys here on the channel, but getting licensed is one way to ensure that you have a true understanding of the real estate buying and selling process, and you'll be bound by certain ethics to make sure that you're doing the right thing, which isn't a bad thing. And plus, with a lot of laws that are coming out around wholesaling, it actually applies to people who don't have their real estate license, but if you did have your license, you would still be able to wholesale legally, but make sure that it's specific to the law in your particular state. I'd also remember to tell you that wholesaling is only one exit strategy. It's only one way of investing in real estate, and if you really plan to have a future in this and build a business, you're less likely to do like something shady to just get a one-off quick deal. For me, I'm investing near where Black Wall Street used to be in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and so I want to own properties in that area so that I can renovate them and create safe, affordable, just comfortable housing for the community. Keeping a big goal like that in mind can help you make sure that you're building a business that you can really be proud of. And for me, I'm actually working on a deal right now that might be the first one that I end up not wholesaling, but keeping and renovating for myself. It's by another property that I already own near Black Wall Street, and I'm super excited about it. That video will be out in a couple of days, but because you guys watched to the end of this video, I want to give you a sneak peek right now. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. Boom. So the seller of this one is actually an investor, and he gave me the code and is letting me walk through to see if this might be a property I'm interested in. All right. I don't know how much you guys can see, and I know you can't smell, but it doesn't smell good. Hello? He said the electrical is on. So this is probably, I think, the kitchen. You want to take a look through there? In that room? I think. We'll see. He said one of the units has the kitchen already torn out and another unit has the bathroom already torn out. Let's see what we got. It's a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom duplex on each side. Our favorite, carpet in the bathroom. Whew, not too much fun in there. We can go ahead in there, I'll wait. There's the 1-bedroom.